In this video, I want to demonstrate how to add the contours to my other part setup. It's the same part, but flipped over, and we're going to machine it to the overall length. Before I do that though, I made a mistake in this contour. So I'm going to select its parameters. I'm going to go to the linking parameters, and this was supposed to start 100th thou above the part. So I'm going to change the 0.2 to 0.1 in absolute, say OK. I'll regenerate the toolpath, and now that's corrected. So now I want to add a contour toolpath to this part. So I'm going to move that red insert arrow down to the bottom. Notice how the stock has changed. Next, I want to go to levels, and I'm going to make level 100 active, and I'm going to turn the visibility of level 1 off. Then I come back here to toolpaths. I don't want to see this previous toolpath, so I'm just going to turn its visibility off. And now I'm ready to go. So I need to read the assignment sheet. So I'm just going to bring the assignment sheet into here for a second. And what do we need to do? We need to use the single chaining method. We're going to start on the right side first at the Y0 end of the part. I'm going to use a 3/4 inch cutter, cutting speed of 400, feed per tooth of 10 thou. Plunge rate is 25. I'm going to add comment. I'm going to set the step down to 0.4. I'm going to leave 25 thou on each side for a finished cut. So that's another tool path. Okay, the bottom of the cutter must be 25 thou below the bottom of the part. And the cutter must arc on and off the part, okay, with a motion. So we want to read all this, and the arc motion ending 25 thou before the part and arcing off starting 25 thou past the edge of the part. The tool should feed from 100 thou above the part, and the coolant must be turned on. So there's our assignment sheet. Let's just get it out of the way here. And now how do I want to do this? So I'm working from a solid, but that's not a problem. First thing I want to do, so I'm on the right part. I want to double check that. The part looks right, and I'm going to tell I want to make a contour toolpath. So I'm going to select the edges method of selection, and I was told I can only select a single entity. Now I've got a couple options. I could go ahead and I could create geometry if I wanted at the proper Z depth and the proper length. But all I really want to worry about or focus on is getting one entity that's the proper length. And I need to start from the Y0 end on the right side of my part. So this entity here is what I want. So I'm going to select it, and it shows me it's selected this, and it's stopped at the loop. That's not a problem. I'm going to come down here to the branches and just tell it to back up. So that is what I want. So I'm going to say, yeah, end that chain. And now to make sure, I'm going to move this window a bit, that the cutter's on the same side, so the cutter's outside the part. When I get over here, I'm going to rotate around a bit, and I'm going to make sure I select, again, I'm going to rotate right around, and I'll zoom in, and I want to select this part edge now. Let me zoom back out, and again, it's gone too far, but that's fine. I just can tell it to back up, back up, back up, and now it has the proper entity selected, and I'll say, okay, I'm done selecting edges. So my next step is come down here to the tool, go into the tool library, just move this over a bit, filter. I'm looking for flat bottom end mills, but this time they have to equal 3/4 of an inch. I'll say okay. There's one in the library that suits my needs. So I'm going to say okay, and okay again. So I've got that 3/4 inch tool. I'm going to always turn on rapid retract. I'm going to set the cutting speed to 400. I'm going to set the feed per tooth to 10 thou, the plunge rate to 25, and I'm going to add an appropriate comment with the caps lock on. So I'm going to tell it to machine ends to clean up, and I'm going to say leave, and then I have to go back to my sheet and see what it told me to leave, and it was 25 thou, so I'll add that in the note, leave 25 thou for the finished cut. So next step, go to cut parameters, and I want to look here. Again, here's where I put that 25 thou to leave for the next cut. The lead in and lead out, it had a note there. For the lead in and lead out, it said the arc motion must start and end 25 thou before the contour. So I'm going to come down here and I'm going to adjust the start of the contour, and I'm going to extend it. Here would be % of the tool, but I'm told the actual distance. So I'm going to enter 25 thou. And I'm going to tell it to copy it to the end, and that'll take care of that 25 thou. That'll tell the tool when it arcs on to finish its arc 25 thou before this edge of the part. Then next I want to look at the breakthrough because it tells me I need to go 25 thou past the bottom of the part. So I'm going to turn that on, set the amount to 25 thou. So I want to go back over my assignment sheet and I realized I missed the step downs. So I'm going to turn on the depth cuts and it says the step down must be 0.4. So I'm going to set the maximum step down to 0.4. The sheet doesn't mention any multi-passes or step over, so I'll leave that. And next I want to go to linking parameters. I'm going to make these all absolute. And it tells me once again I need to start 100 thou above the part and that the depth needs to be the bottom of the part. So I'm going to click the depth button. I'm just going to rotate around and make sure I can choose a piece of geometry that's on the bottom. So there it is. So I've got that 3/4. The last thing I want to do is turn on the coolant. So I'm going to say OK, turn on the flood coolant, and then I'll say OK, create the toolpath. Let's right click and look at this isometrically, and we'll double check it and it looks good. And the next step again, reread the assignment sheet, and it says in step 3, add a contour toolpath to clean up the part to final length, meaning, okay, here's the roughing that we just did. Now I need to add a finishing toolpath. So to make it easy, I'm just going to right click and hold on this toolpath, drag down below the red arrow, release, and I'm going to tell it to create a copy after. And then I'll move the insert arrow down. I need to go into the parameters, into tool, and I'm going to grab another 3/4 inch cutter. So I'll say OK. So this time I want to change the comment. Whoops, it's warning me. One exists. Do I want to add a new one? Yes. So now I'm going to select this comment and I'll delete it. Everything else will be the same here. I'll go to cut parameters. I can't leave 25 thou. That's what this is taking. I'm going to uncheck depth cuts because I just want to take that 25 thou in one pass. So everything else should be the same, and I'll say OK. This will need to be regenerated because it's slightly different. Now I've created the contour for this end of the part as well as the contour for when the part's flipped over on the bottom. And in the next video, we'll pick it up from there with the next set of instructions.